Everybody, welcome. Good morning.
Hey, Collinwood Church. So here's the question. What is God calling you to in 2023? I'll tell you what God's calling me to in 2023. I'm going to be a daddy. Yeah. Your turn.
God is calling me to be more confident and at peace at the same time in 2023.
Trying to make a difference in people's lives one way or the other, whether it's at work or with my family. I think it can be beautiful if I do it right.
Find people to get closer to God. If I see a strange face that I don't know, I'm going to go up there and say hi to them. And you know what? Just bring God closer to us as a family. Yay!
You're so red right now.
I know, because I don't like being in videos. All right, so I feel like in 2023, God is calling me to rest, which doesn't sound very like exciting or like, I don't know, but I just feel like a lot of just anxiety this year, just like a lot of like unsettledness feeling. I think God's like asking me for my life to be simpler than I make it, or just like really like calm down and just to leave things where it is and really trust Him in a lot of ways, and just rest, just chill out.
Helping others, like we could help the homeless, like give them food or things that they might need. Makes me feel good.
Wait, give me a second to think about this. Just impact society. I want to like try to the best of my abilities, because I feel like right now I'm just kind of like giving half my effort towards everything. So like my grades are mediocre, like everything is just kind of bland, and I really want to just like fully like commit myself to everything that I do, and yeah, and just hopefully improve and be better as a person.
I feel that God is calling me to serve more, and just be, more giving of my time, and just help others.
To connect. You go through life thinking you really know Him, thinking you really understand Him. But every day in the mornings, my wife and I have been starting for the last week trying to spend extra time with Him in nature and walking, and it's really nice. We're feeling like truly to connect. And so 2023, I believe either reconnect or true connection is what we're looking for.
That I could serve more next year. I mean, there's so many. I think just helping more in the youth setting, and for our church. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you too.
So what's the call for 2023? For me, it feels like the word I keep hearing over and over for myself is obedience, obedience, obedience. And if you know anything about the word obedience, particularly in the Hebrew and then over into the Greek of the original languages of what the book was written in, this obedience is about hearing. It's about hearing the word, and when you hear it, you actually live from it, right? It's not just the English idea of compliance, but it's about hearing the word and living from it. And what I'm being called to is the obedience of faith, right? Just to actually hear, receive that word again, and walk and live from it. And the passage that has most recently been ringing in my ears has been Matthew chapter 5. It's the Sermon on the Mountain. And if you've seen The Chosen, episodes 1, 2, or 3, actually the end of season 2, where in The Chosen's telling, Jesus is preparing this magnum opus of the Sermon on the Mount. He comes to Matthew one evening and he tells Matthew, I've got it. And if you've seen this, it's really cool. And Matthew takes out his tablet and he's about to record the words that are coming out of the mouth of Jesus. And Jesus stands beside Matthew and he's overlooking the encampment where his followers are. And he begins with the famous words that we know well. Blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. If I think about these words in light of obedience, I'm challenged by the concept of blessed. Makarios in the Greek, it's maybe translated, a good analog in English would be privileged. And you know that privilege, that word's a really popular one right now. And To be privileged is to have a certain set of advantages in a particular realm or field, so that Jesus begins his grand manifesto by saying, privileged, blessed, happy. Privileged are those who are poor in spirit. Why? To them belongs the kingdom of heaven, because they're the ones who actually recognize that they are in need of something that they themselves cannot produce. And I think back to the first time I finally received the gospel. I heard the message and landed, and I knew prior to my reception of it, as I was hearing it, I knew that I was poor in spirit. I knew that when internet gospel preacher challenged me with, you are not living from the spirit, I knew that I was poor in spirit. And what followed was that I was actually in a privileged position, because in the recognition that I was poor in spirit, he dropped in the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for to them belongs the kingdom of heaven. So for me, it's the return there. It's the return of poor in spirit. It's the return to recognizing that I have been filled, that I no longer am what I once was, to return back to this obedience of faith that hears this word, that hears that, hey, you were once poor in spirit, but because of that, we're in a privileged position to actually receive. Now that I've actually received, I'm being called to obey and walk out that which I've heard. And I don't know where you're at. These are just reflections for me as I'm sharing with the community that this is where I'm being called to. I don't know where you're at right now in the year 2023 of our Lord. Who would have thought 2023? I don't know what it is you're hearing, what you're being called to. But in these next few minutes that we have, let's spend some time being encouraged, hearing what the Lord has for us. And if you're not quite sure on what the Lord has for you, to actually hear somebody else and see if something pops up. Because maybe you're being called to something that you already heard from before. And maybe by hearing something, you might see that you've actually known. Or maybe there are those who need to hear for the first time. And so in the next few minutes that we have, what is it that the Lord is calling you into 2023? Again, for me in my house, it's obedience. And obedience what? Back to that word of faith, that I was once poor in spirit, but I've been filled and the kingdom of heaven is mine. What is yours? I pray now that you share in your groups and that you be encouraged. Anda la porra.